Good evening, and welcome to Soluble, America's Political Central. Today's date is February the 21st in the year of our Lord, 2024. Still in the, practically the midst of the Republican primaries because former Ambassador Haley is still in the running. She's hanging by a thread, but she's still in the running. Um, you know, we'll reiterate as always that we're here to solve, to try to be a difference maker in politics by first and foremost getting out the vote. You know, bringing you eye-opening exposure to what we see here at Soluble as the problem in Washington D.C. And what it would take to get us back to a situation where our politicians are reaching across the aisles. And today on this podcast, we're going to talk about what we see as a serious red alert, going on in American politics, um, on the side of our colleagues on our side of the right, on the right side of the aisle. I mean, it's just incredulous as to how these people are able to get power, hold on to power, and then become, do nothings. Since the midterms, when they gained the majority in the House, um, we see, government just at a total disarray from this side of the aisle. We're having speakers ousted, we're having expulsions, we're having, elbowing, practically fisticuffs, and it's just totally disarray when it comes to American governance. And our position here at Soluble is that it further um, shows what happens when you got one bad apple, which is former President Donald J. Trump, who is the commanding leader and ruler of the Republican Party. And so, we have to be ready. Unfortunately, we should always, be ready to get out and champion the Democrat cause for the working class and building the economy from the working class out. We should always get out the vote to champion that. Now, we can easily, jump in the weeds with our Republican colleagues and, start doing finger pointing or name calling or blame gaming. But, as Democrat voters, we should be looking at what we're getting versus, who we sent up to Washington, D.C. to govern, to make law, to investigate, and whatever their job is fully as congressmen and or senators, and even as president of the United States. Now, the reason why, we're calling a red alert for the country's sake is, you know, the Republican Party that is owned by the former president Donald J. Trump is just totally off the rails. We've seen the former president um, come out of his hearings owing money, being having a judgment against him to pay millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, or what have you, and he's just gone bonkers. I mean, I know that a lot of you out there have seen it as well as we have with his latest venture of the Trump sneaker. And when we look at the Trump hats, the shirts, the signed photographs, coins or whatever, we've seen it all along. The president, the former president practically has a catalog of things that he's constantly selling to his supporters. But with this latest venture into the Trump's sneaker, you how much further of a plummet will this party allow itself to take? How much more of a drop? I mean, as I said, we've seen all the other merchandise, but now we have to realize that the former president, he's for sale. He's totally compromised. I mean, he's gonna get up on stage and promote this, this hideous looking sneaker, this hideous gold and flag and blazing sneaker, and he just looks so squeamish, even doing it to the point where he feels uncomfortable. He has to. This is the last act of a dangerous and desperate wannabe president. Someone who wants to regain power for their own sole benefit, not the country, but for their own sole benefit. These are the last acts with this sneaker that the former president won't even wear because he know it looks stupid. But he'll sell it to you and let you put it on and look stupid. And think about how stupid you are, how much of a sucker you are. This is where we're at. And so as Democrats, we only have one place to go, thankfully, and we have to utilize it. We have to go to the voting booth once again, for something so dangerous. I mean, we go every 4 years anyway. And usually, it's not out of the norm for a Democratic voter or a Republican voter, for that matter, even though rare, who will cross the aisles and vote opposite their party because they actually like what the other guy is saying or the other person is saying. We have to get back to that. We have to get, and this is why it's so important, that we bum rush the voting booth, starting to gather all the facts now, as far as early voting, the voting precincts, the polling places or what have you in your neighborhoods, how they work, when they're open. Are there any changes to early voting in your state or in your district? We have to get on the ball because we have nothing. We have nothing of an opposition. And to, speak truth to power is what we're going to strive to do here at Soluble, because we can't solve it without it. And if the truth be controversial, then, controversy will be the order of the day. We have no other choice but, to tell it like it is when we're trying to solve. Now, with, our fellow Democrats, and we're staunchly in the Democratic corner here at Soluble. But, we have to grow more of a spine. And looking at this red alert that we see, that is the Republican Party and how they have power now in the House, and is still being ran and controlled by the former president who's no longer in office, but is calling the shots. How do we get away from this? Because our colleagues on the right are not going to wake up to the fact that the former president cares more about himself than he does the country. Now, back to making my point about Democrats. We have to, in telling the truth and speaking truth to power, we have to, as a party, take our stance and put our flag down on our stance. We have to have more of a spine. We cannot allow Republicans to control the message. Whereas, they start to say something against Democratic policies or against a person who is a Democrat with accusations or what have you, like they love to do. And we begin to go somewhere into a place like, we start to question ourselves. Or, something like, did you hear what the Republicans are saying? What do you think we ought to do? We ought not to entertain it, period. We have to control our own narrative. This is what the American people has voted into power, has voted you into power for, to control the narrative and not let the Republicans control the talking point when you have power. And this is it with our Democratic colleagues. I mean, we seem to see, well, we do see them governing from the middle class outward, trying to grow the economy first and foremost. That is, the Democrat stance, the working class and growing the economy from there. But, we do need to take a more firm stance on what we believe in, what we stand for, the things that we are championing. Now we've seen the president, relieve some of the college debt, relieve some of the student loan debt today. So to all those who it will have a positive effect on, good news. Hopefully it will help be somewhat of a catapult for you to further your ambitions in life and get there faster. And as Democrats, we have to send a clear message that we're not looking for a handout, but simply a hand up, a level playing field. We have to take that stance and cling to it, or we will let our Republican colleagues on the other side control the narrative that it is a party that's a liberal party that gives handouts, that promotes welfare and causing people to be lazy and not want to earn. We have to change that narrative and take a clear stance that we are a party for a hand up and not a handout. And so, we don't see anything else. Our position here at Soluble is that, the ageism attacks that the president is enduring are, overblown, simply because the president of the United States has a vice president who is one heartbeat away from being ready to serve at a moment's notice. She knows this. The aides all know it. The advisors all know it. The administration all knows it. The system of checks and balances works. So we're going to look at the commander-in-chief's experience, his love of country, and the sound wisdom and judgment that we know he'll exercise while in office when it comes to doing what's best for America. And, fumbling or bumbling, stumbling Joe Biden is better than a constitutional menace, former President Donald J. Trump. And this is the position that we have to take and stand firm. And stand firm. Let the results speak for themselves. Let the results speak for themselves. Here's a party, here's the opposition party in the Republicans who have no answers. They have nothing to run on. And from the midterms of 2022 up until now, what have they given us in the form of meaningful legislation that strengthens America at home and abroad and or helps the American people here domestically? What have they given us? Very little. It's been, total chaos, upheaval, disarray, disorganization. And so, if the party is, showing us who they are, telling us who they are, we have to believe it. We have to believe it. And seeing is believing. Now, another reason why we're calling a red alert on today is, in dealing with the situation with, Hunter Biden. And we now have, the facts come to light from the FBI that this highly credible witness who was, labeled as such by congressmen like Jim Jordan, Comer from Kentucky, former Speaker McCarthy. They've all used the words, credible, that this was a credible witness who was going to bring forth, and expose the Biden crime family. And lo and behold, this gentleman is now under arrest for giving false information and or lying under oath. And, we've also come to discover that he was getting his intelligence, his information on Hunter Biden from, of all people, the Russians. And so, it's a red alert. It's a red alert as to how America is going to look, or begin to look a year from now. We lost a lot of, a lot of people lost faith in us as far as countries when the former president was in office, because America's known around the world as a free country, a democratic country with a system of checks and balances, freedom for all. No one is above the law. And, the former president somewhat tarnished that. He somewhat tarnished that. And, you've heard it from the commander in chief yourself. And he's so on point. The former president, who should be putting country first, always seems to blame America. You've never seen anything like this. You've never heard of it. Well, a former president, always seems to put the blame on his own country. Now, don't get me wrong. We're a country that takes responsibility, that takes accountability, sometimes, albeit too late. Sometimes it takes a while for, history to catch up. Well, things are corrected or what have you. But, no matter how fast or slow, America always comes around thus far to doing the right thing. It's a slow grind, albeit, but you've never seen anything like this. You never heard it up until now. And so, we're encouraging all Democrat voters to, be ready. Tell a friend, tell a family member, because, democracy as we know it is truly at stake. There's, if we see what we're seeing with this former FBI informant being placed under arrest, and you have Republican congressmen who are relying on Russian intelligence, of all intelligence sources, they could be getting, they're getting their intelligence sources from the Russians. And, it goes without saying. It goes without saying that is something that we could, never rely on. Never rely on. They're masters at ambiguity, the Russians. They're known to, dislike America. And we have to understand that Vladimir Putin would do anything in his power that he can do to disrupt American power and our livelihoods. And so, this is the Republicans, running on an empty tank. There's plenty of room to legislate. There are plenty of things to legislate for, here at home and or abroad. And we see, what's happening since the 2022 midterms. And, we have to understand that that's what is happening now. Can it not go forward? Will it not go forward into another President Trump administration going from 2024 into 2028? So, there's no time to sit on the fence. What you see right now is what you get, and that's nothing. That's something that's, they're trying to, put Humpty Dumpty back together again, and put this report together behind closed doors, and so now we have to understand why Hunter refuses to meet with Republican lawmakers behind closed doors. We have to understand why now. But this is a serious red alert because, the front runner right now in the Republican primary has, he's failed to this new low. Paying his legal bills, he's in jeopardy. He can be bought and sold. He can be bought and sold. And with the launch of this latest, Trump sneaker, this is the conclusion that we've had no other choice but to come to here at Sawyer. It's the only reasonable conclusion that we can draw. The former president is out on the campaign trail selling golden sneakers for an all-time low of $400 a pair. I never thought, that I would live to see the day where, it just fell apart in such a, wholeheartedly ignorant, just a total absence of statesmanship, no presidential decorum whatsoever. And it's a sad day and time in America. It's a sad day and time that the former president is deceiving the people. He's tearing down he's breaking down the domestic tranquility that we have been ordered by the framers to promote. We've been ordered by the framers to promote domestic tranquility. And the former president is doing anything but. He's doing anything but. And, America's in decline. That's a question for the ages. That is something to be debated. Do we have issues here at home? Of course we do. Of course we do. But don't believe the hype to the level that, the former president is saying it. As if, we're headed down this path of self-destruction that is, 2 calendar years away. And nothing can be further than the truth. But everything is on the line, most notably the Supreme Court. It slants hard right now. And we know how we got here, why we got here. We know some of the tactics that the Republicans use to delay the process, to after an election and et cetera, et cetera. But the Supreme Court is definitely, on the ballot. It is important, among other things. But first and foremost, we have a competing party that right now doesn't have a clue. And we've never seen it at this level of dysfunction. We've never seen it at this level of dysfunction. Now, of course, they can remake themselves. Of course, they can go back to their home districts among their constituents and get out and talk to the people and engage with the people. Why they haven't or won't, right now the House is on a 2-week recess. So maybe that is what's happening. But, it's definitely a remaking or a rebranding that has to come out of today's Republican Party. This is not sustainable. The things that the former president is taking the party through is not sustainable for the party and or America. The RNC is crying broke right now, with the former president's mounting legal bills. But yet they still, cling to the former president as their champion. We have to act. And I'm confident here at Soluble that we will. We see what's at stake. And you know, we see a former president in Donald J. Trump who wants power, but cares nothing about the America and the American way of life. Today he's selling sneakers. Tomorrow he's elected president of the United States, and now he's selling America. At what price? At what price? And this is what we have to understand. What makes it such a red alert? With the introduction of this new sneaker line, with this new low, we realize now that the former president will put America up for sale, whether it's secrets, whether it's land deals, whether it's buildings in America that have historical importance. But the former president is definitely for sale, and he's too compromised, to ever retake the Oval Office again. This is what we as Democrats must understand. That 90-something plus percentile is going to be real important, and up to you to hold the line with turnout and to remain, that 90 plus percent at that 90 plus percent level. It has to remain the same. If not, I'm not going to say doom and gloom, but it's the same old, same old. It's Make America Great Again warmed over with nothing new. It's simply the fact that it's more dangerous than ever. The former president, he doesn't have a clue. And it's very embarrassing. It's very embarrassing that such uneducated, a person who doesn't have really a clue as to how government works, to be at this, holding this kind of power and position over the Republican Party. So, you be the judge. There's nothing to run on. They tanked the border deal on the former president's orders. The border deal was tanked because he wants credit for that. He has nothing else to run on. He can't let that. He doesn't want that bill to go through and pass into law, and still at the same time tell the American people that, okay, that's good and it's good for America, but here's what I have that's better, and this is why you should vote for me. The former president is an empty vessel. He's an empty vessel. He's playing the blame game. He's finger pointing. He's a victim in every case, in every situation. It's a witch hunt. It's election interference, to stop him from retaking the Oval Office. In every situation, the former president is saying that, he's innocent. He don't know these people. He hasn't done these things. The banks got their money back. This was a victimless crime. And so in that particular one, he did admit it, that it was a crime. But, he seemed to think that it was okay because there were no victims. What you see is what you get. And this is the party that has reached a new low, a new all-time low. And, the level of dysfunction seems to grow by the day. It seems to grow by the day. We don't know what's going to be next here. Now we feel like here at Soluble that the right thing to do is to just shut the investigation down because there's nothing there. Shut it down and be truthful with the American people, and you'll probably win some votes simply by doing the right thing. simply by doing the right thing. Now, as it relates to solving, which is, the ultimate goal, Democrats, we have to, win this election, hold on to the Oval Office and flip the House and actually get meaningful legislation passed. Ukraine is suffering right now. Now, here's a country that's on the verge of bringing Russia to its knees. With the amount of dead Russian soldiers that are being sent back home, it would be great for world peace. There was already a deal in place where Ukraine, here years ago, a deal was put in place where Ukraine will be recognized. And they're doing the world a favor. They're doing all of Europe a favor. And we have our Republican colleagues who are in control of the House. And this is what they're doing with their control. So what they stand for, at this point, nobody knows. Here at Soluble, we don't know. We wish we could tell you. That they, we know they talk about fiscal conservatism. But, they won't let President Biden, they wants to block anything he wants to do, have to do with strengthening the IRS for collections. We don't know what they stand for. And you're not going to get a more clear picture until, they're voted out and they're forced to, start with the Republican in the mirror and begin to remake themselves. Look at the American populace for what it is now, not for what it was 60 years ago, and begin to remake themselves in the image of modern day America. It's not going to happen until we vote them out. It's a dangerous, destructive party that seems to be hell bent on, non-cooperation. The party of no. We have Democrats reaching across the aisle. Now, while Democrats are reaching across the aisles, we're going to, strongly encourage President Biden to go and stay Dark Brandon. From now until Election Day, go and stay Dark Brandon. And go on the attack. As I said, this is the one weakness of our party. We don't make our case, stand on it strong and firm enough. We can easily be moved or, come across as timid, when it comes to countering the message from our Republican colleagues across the aisle. We have to take our stance and be firm on it as Democrats. And, stay the course. Prosecute corruption wherever we see it. Call out our leaders that we voted for whenever we see them, not doing the will of the people. We see right now, in the Middle East, for example, we see the commander-in-chief moving to the will of the people. He's telling Israel to stand down. They're over the top. And this is how government should work. Now, is it a time to let up? No. We have to continue on until we get the peace that we desire in that part of the world. But this is just an example of how, we have a commander-in-chief who is listening to the pulse of the people. You have seats at the table. You have voices in those seats to that 90-something plus percentile of African-American voters. This is your party, a lesser of two evils, where you have the power to change your daily lives here in America. And if not, you have to be ready to call it on it. You have to be ready to call American democracy on its face, a worldwide lie. And you have the power to do that as that 90 something plus percentile. Make your voices heard, by voting in those Democrats who are going to bring, about meaningful change to daily lives of all Americans. Make your voices heard, stand firm with a 2/3 majority, or be prepared to call American democracy a worldwide lie. This should be the position of that 90 something plus percentile of African American voters who are voting Democrat. You're not, if you don't feel like you're progressing fast enough, if you don't feel like things are, moving, to a pace that you think that they should, look no further than the Congress. Right now, with just for example, Ukraine, and we know that we have problems here at home as well. But with just for example, with Ukraine, this could be a lot different outcome if we had, a simple Democrat majority that can get this thing moving. Now, Speaker Johnson says that, we have to have, the border issues addressed. Lo and behold, a bill came out of the Senate. Now, Speaker Johnson is saying that, we still have to address the southern border, and he's recessed the House for 2 weeks. So we're here to solve. And, our position here is soluble to American voters who are out there listening. The best way to solve it at this point in time is to, rock the vote. It's to rock the vote. If democracy matters, if your freedom of speech matters, freedom of the press, all the freedoms that we enjoy here in the country when it comes to one expressing themselves without any blowback, nothing matters at this point now more than, a Democrat majority in order to solve it. We see no other alternative because our colleagues on the right are doubling down on misinformation. They're doubling down on lies. And they're trying their best to produce a picture of a corrupt Joe Biden along with his son, brother, or whoever. And, this makes them even worse than the former president. Now, the hypocrisy of it all is that, we know that there's evidence on the former president's behavior, his actions, his violations of the emoluments clause while he was in office. And they're looking the other way. So, the sheer hypocrisy of it all should be upsetting to anyone who's really paying attention, and really offensive that they would think that, we're so ignorant and that we're so stupid that we can't actually, see what's going on. They don't have a clue. And it's cause for alarm. It's cause for alarm. There's nothing new to see. And so, therefore there's nothing new to speak on. There's nothing new to speak on here. Other than the fact that how important it is to vote. We don't have one, piece of meaningful legislation that we can say has come out of the Republican caucus that we can talk about here at Soluble tonight. It's investigations to nowhere. It's the former president on the campaign trail playing the blame game, finger pointing. As the president of the United States of America, Joseph Biden, has said, he's blaming America. Nothing on the campaign trail about what he's going to do to make your lives better. You know, with an increase in wages, child care, prescription drug prices, climate change, how it's disrupting everyday lives with the weather phenomena that we're having. Nothing. It's all about yours truly. So, with solving being the goal, with solving it being the ultimate goal, it's either, we turn out and win this next election, or, you know, get ready for a new abnormal, which may be the case anyway. Because, we have in the former president now running again. By all indicators, he will be the nominee. And we don't know what stops he'll pull out this time. The former president has actually lost voters since the elections of 2020 with his actions, around January the 6th, 2021, Insurrection Day, and the things that he's done thereafter with classified documents. The former president has lost supporters. And once again, we're glad to report here at Soluble, the former president doesn't have a clue. He doesn't seem to have a clue or a care. What does he know that we don't know about the fact that he hasn't gained any new supporters? What does he know that we don't know? Now, all indications are that the president is just, simply clueless. He doesn't have some ace up his sleeve that he's ready to pull out at a moment's notice, and pull off a victory in November. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. And so, it's even further solidifying the fact that, he's unfit for office. We're waiting for him to make the case. And we're waiting. We see him on the campaign trail and we're waiting. But it's the same old, same old. The Democratic, the communists, the Democratic thugs, they're ruining the country. We have to close the border. And, it's just a broken record of the former president trying to rehash a bygone era, a failed bygone era of MAGA. This is a serious red alert. And, we have a system of checks and balances. But unfortunately, there's nothing we can do in this situation because, there was an opportunity to impeach the former president for his actions centered around January the 6th, 2021, and our Republican colleagues failed to do so. And so here he is, still that thorn in our side. Here he is, still that thorn in our side. And what happened to this party of strength? Its symbolism is the elephant. And, as we stated here before on this podcast, the elephant usually pushes his way around. He rarely gets out the way for any other creature in the wild. Does he have to make way for? Most creatures in the wild are making way for the elephant, not the other way around. But we don't see no stiffening of the spine to a former president who is a constitutional menace. They're circling the wagons, to defend. And they know, his Republican colleagues know, whether it's in the Senate, whether it's in the House, whether it's former candidates who have dropped out of the race, they know he doesn't have what it takes to win, numerical wise. And so, it's a mystery. It's a mystery that we haven't figured out here at Soluble yet. So, there's nothing that we can tell you. There's nothing that we can tell you as to, what, how, and or why, the former president has this strong grip on the party, and it's called the party that it has the elephant for a symbol to cower in fear, of a former president who's, he's not a statesman, he's not a former soldier, he's not a decorated war hero. He's someone who's dealt in the real estate business, primarily his entire life, and he got into politics, by all indicators, just on a whim, and didn't even expect to win. But his message resonated nevertheless, and he was able to win the election of 2016. And so here we are now, almost a decade later, and it's going to be up to us as Democrats to make the former president irrelevant, because he can do no wrong in Republican circles, no matter how much damage he's doing to the country, no matter what kind of example that he's setting for our children as a world leader, no matter what kind of example that he's setting, he's still the man in Republican circles. And so Democrats and common sense independents, it's up to us to hold the line. It's up to us to hold the line, because we have to plainly see now that the president is, a failed man. He's a failed leader. And there's nothing wrong with saying it. We have, and thankfully we have the freedom in America to say it. It would be, less than dutiful, for one's countrymen to state anything other than. When, is the last time that we've seen a former president stoop to this low? By all accounts, by all personal accounts from the former president, he's a very rich man. He's a very rich man. So, one would think that he would open up stores. That's more presidential like than selling sneakers off of a stage, selling them online. One would think he would open up a brick and mortar store, or maybe even several of them. If there's such a high demand for this product. But it's like I said, the last acts of a desperate and dangerous wannabe, president of the United States of America. And he has no one but himself to blame. There's too much smoke here for there not to be any fire. There's too much smoke. And so here we are. There's a lot more that we have to discuss going into November, before the ballots are actually beginning to be cast in the general election. We have early voting, starting up soon, even before November. And so, we're going to break it down issue by issue. But, as of now, with all polling indicators seeming to point to the fact that the former president will be the nominee, unless by something short of a miracle, former Ambassador Haley, begins to gain in the delegate count and remains in the race, which remains to be seen as to, what's going to happen there. But by all, indicators, it's going to be former President Donald J. Trump. And so here we are, waiting for the next low. We're waiting for the next embarrassment. We're holding on with bated breath. As the former president does things like attack NATO, and threaten NATO countries with, desertion if they're not paying their fees, and to let them come under attack. These things, it's a new low for a former president of the United States of America. But unfortunately, power corrupts. And in this situation, absolute power has corrupted absolutely. This is a prime example. And so, we have a choice to make: America or former president, if he's the nominee, Donald J. Trump. Because it's not one and the same. It's not former President Trump and America. It's former President Donald J. Trump or America. And of course, there are those, his staunch supporters who, think that nothing can be further than the truth. But the president haven't given us anything. He hasn't given us anything on the campaign trail, to clarify to us what a second Trump administration would look like, how it would strengthen us here at home and abroad, how it would make, our lives better, safer. Is he willing to, put regulations in place that keep us safe, or is he going to cut regulations? What's he going to do with the tax rate? He's giving us nothing. And so we have to assume at this point, because November is right around the corner. Even though it's several months away, it's going to be here, faster than you think. So what we see is what we get at this point, and we'll just have to take it one day at a time, reporting to you, as we see what the former president is doing, how we're receiving it. And right now, with this latest sneaker venture, we felt as if, we should come on and stress a red alert that the former president is officially for sale, and in the process, he will sell America also. And, our position here at Sawyer is that he will sell it all too cheap, and the citizens thereof. And so, we'll stay tuned for this, mess that is the Republican Party, and see where their governance gets us between now and November, when the elections start. And if, based on what we've seen thus far, we have to rock this vote. We have to, flip more seats, because our colleagues on the right have given us, no indication that they're going to be anything other than the party of no, governing with clenched fists. They're saying no to Ukraine. They're saying no to the southern border. They're saying no to women's rights. And at the same time, they won't come out, and plainly state what they are for. So we'll know. They won't come out and plainly state what they are for. And they think that they can, drag it out, kick the can down the road until November. This is the plan. And then to do what? If the former president, somehow wins a second term, now it's time to, pass the same border legislation that sat in the chamber, for the last 6 to 7, 8 months. Hold on, brace yourself, for what lies next. What misinformation is next. What, fear mongering is next. What has happened to, the Ronald Reagan Republican of yesterday? Although we would never support, that Ronald Reagan Republican of yesterday here at Soluble, but it was a Republican that you could debate with. It was a Republican that you could reason with, compromise with. And it seems to be all gone and forgotten. In the new day and age of former President Donald J. Trump. And this is what we have. This is what, the party has come to: infighting, disarray, dysfunction. One minute they're going to pass something, the next minute they're not, because the former commander in chief is holding it up. And so we have to take, very, very much offense to that as Democrats and common sense independents. That the former president is still in the picture after losing an election, after stirring up an insurrection, after, lying about classified materials, encouraging others to do so, after trying to steal an election. He has restrictions placed on him now when it comes to operating the Trump organization. But we're going to trust him to run this entire country, to beat the top, commander of this entire great nation. So we don't want to, be fence sitters on this one as Democrats. We don't want to sit this one out simply because, we don't like neither candidate. Our guy is our guy. And he or she should be until, we decide, as a party, as a Democrat party, who is going to be the next person up to run for the office of president of the United States. Until then, we have our guy in Joseph R. Biden, who is actually producing results. And we've seen, the truth turned into a lie. We've seen, by all accounts from our Republican colleagues, we've seen credible witnesses now, under arrest for giving false information. So, we encourage you to let this red alert motivate you, cause you to sit up and take notice as to what's going on with, in government and why we're having the problems that we're having. We have a party that, refuses to remake itself in the image of today's America. And, it's caused democracy to move at a snail's to no pace at all. And we see no other way out but to show up on election day in large numbers and, flip seats in the House. We see no other way. And we'll take it day by day. waiting to see what's going to happen next. And, we will come on and report, debate, and look for any and, all solutions at our disposal to bring politics back to a more peaceable place and time in America where we're actually getting things done, in a productive manner and at a productive pace. Because this is, after all, what we're sending our leaders to Washington to do. We thank you for joining us here tonight at Soluble. We hope that this podcast has been informative and eye-opening and causing you to really, take a long look at what's actually going on in political circles in Washington, D.C. We're here to hold Democrats accountable, and we're here to hold Republicans accountable. Although we're staunchly Democrat, ironically, we're going to be even tougher on the Democrats. And so we're encouraging them to take a firm stance. We're encouraging the commander-in-chief to go and stay dark Brandon, because this is, the weakness in the party, by not taking a firm stand on the issues that we stand for. So until the next time, this is Soluble signing off. We thank you for joining us. Good night and God bless. Thank you.